Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sonic Chronicle. My name is Owen, and today I'm back with an album review. And this is an album that I think has really flown under people's radar that I really think shouldn't fly under people's radar. This album is called Social Cohesion by Mudrat. Mudrat is an artist, a punk hip-hop artist based in Melbourne, Australia, though he refers to it as Narm because Narm is the Aboriginal name. I apologise if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Aboriginal is not something that I come across particularly often in my day-to-day, so again, I apologise, but please feel free to correct me in the comments section as well. There's very little that I can find out about this artist online, but I will provide the information that I can. From what I understand, he started out as an independent artist making beats on his own, and has since added a band, and his band is referred to as The Mischief, and they do incredible work, putting the words to music. And, I suppose I'm not really explaining that appropriately, but I suppose taking the intent of the lyrics and turning them into music that the lyrics insist upon, that really accentuate and drive home what the lyrics are trying to do. Having looked into it a little bit, the album title refers to the Government of Victoria and its proposed social cohesion pledge, a set of laws introduced in 2024 that people say are designed to suppress protest under the guise of promoting community safety, which is obviously a highly politically charged attempt at repressing freedom of speech and the opportunity to peacefully protest as well. This legislation bans face coverings, protest tools, and demonstrations near places of worship specifically. From listening to this album, this is an album about rebellion. Okay, it's about protest. It's about making your voice heard to the people in power who have not traditionally listened, and as a result you need to find other ways to make them listen. It's about highlighting actual issues that are going on in the world rather than distractions that are occurring, to embolden those seeking to pull the wool over the eyes of the people that they govern or seek to govern. It also covers personal themes, confrontation of the past, and as a heads up, there are I suppose not even veiled, but I suppose very explicit references to child abuse as well, which is very powerful over the course of this album. I'll speak about that when we get there. Before we get into talking about the tracks though, please do consider hitting the like button if you like this video. If you want to support what I do, please hit the subscribe button to the subscribe to the channel so that you get all my videos dropped into your subscriber feed, and of course leave me comments in the comments section as well, because that really helps the channel to grow. And the more that I can reach people about this album, the more it may impact people, the more people might make music like this as well, which I think is a great thing. So let's talk about the tracks. Track number 1, Acknowledgement. This isn't, I suppose, a traditional song. It's more of a statement. And for me, when I first heard it, my jaw dropped. Because this is about I suppose referencing that this album and the work that was put into it was all done on stolen land. Land stolen from the native peoples, the Aboriginal people of Australia. I think that more artists who work on colonial land should be doing this kind of thing. I've played this track on repeat a few times because of the statement in it within about the proceeds of this track going to the Black People's Union. Also refers to Australia as so-called Australia, which I thought was kind of an interesting talking point. But yeah, much respect to Mudrat for that on this record, their first album, I suppose. Track 2, Break Free, first big punk anthem on the album. Big Sex Pistols vibes from the intro on this one. Strong opener, really sets the tone as to what to expect from the record as a whole. Quickly moves on from the Sex Pistols vibes into a Rage Against the Machine style bass riff in the verse and in the middle section. Really covers themes of, I suppose, social mobility, not allowing the setting that you're born into to control the direction that you take in life as an individual. Really empowering as a track. So yeah, really big punk anthem from the get-go, right out the gates. Last Night is track number 3. This one really feels like it's a soft play song, which is not at all a bad thing. It really covers the themes of and the idea of, you know, simply going through the motions, living your life while everything's kind of going to shit around you. That the idea that we're all becoming numb to, you know, what fresh hell awaits us when we wake up every day, as another atrocity is committed every other day. The outro on this one is actually exceptional. This one really struck me. I think you really need to listen to it to believe it, that it really goes places. And I really find myself wishing that it was just that little bit longer as well. Really good track. FME, or Fuck My Enemies, if to use the full title, is a real anthem of rebellion. Normally, I would consider a chorus of just like Fuck My Enemies to be off-putting, right? I think that it's a little bit coarse, that there's probably a bigger statement to be made there than that. And that, you know, there's a more elegant way of doing it. I think of, you know, Green Day, you know, singing "Fuck Off," but this is different. This has a real authenticity to it that's really endearing, and I don't think that you can really say the same thing about Green Day, particularly these days. Anyway, music is really minimal, really understated here. Nothing really complex, but it is a real vehicle for the song, driven by the drums. But I do think that being played live, the room would just explode. Track number 5 is called I Hate Rich Cunts. This was the song that first put me onto Mudrat, actually. This was released as the single before the album came out. It's exactly what you think. Almost like an Anti-Flag song. If you haven't heard of Anti-Flag, I recommend that you go and listen to them if you're into strong punk. Obviously, strong language involved. I love the lyric, and it's been going through my head, you know, over the past few days, of, you know, I won't get signed if I speak my mind. Should I eat the fruit from the rotten vine? I would rather starve than be Zion aligned and go down screaming Free Palestine. It really confronts that discomfort that many people feel for supporting Palestine openly. As a song, it really highlights far-right media. In places, it's a bit Scroobius Pip versus Dan Lassac. If you haven't heard that album, that is an unbelievable record. You should go and listen to that at your earliest convenience. But the bounce to this song is really infectious, that even if you don't agree with the lyrical content, you're going to be toe-tapping to the most explicit chorus in the world. Track number 6, You Don't Care About Poor People. Again, this highlights the average person becoming numb, you know, concerned only with themselves. But it also notes the hypocrisy of people, claiming that, you know, I suppose the inherent racism and hypocrisy of people, claiming that we need to look after our own before we can look after immigrants, because they really don't care about either. And then it proceeds to go all in on this message of there being a class war. It's very much a Stiff Little Fingers song up until the outro, which gets much more groovy than punky. Track number 7, Face to Face. On this track, it's wild. Things take a big turn here. It's almost like it's a poetry piece intersected with big angry guitars. It kind of reminds me of Pussifer a little bit. If you don't know who Pussifer are, they're Maynard Keenan's first side project, I believe, after Tool. But this one really wrenches you and pulls you in different directions. One moment it's pulling at your heartstrings, and then the next it's acting as the devil on your shoulder. It's very strange. Almost gives you emotional whiplash. It's really effective at creating this imagery of internal conflict, evoked lyrically within the music. It's really tough listening, and in particular the last line is an enormous gut punch that I was almost not expecting. And thematically, it reminds me of Family Sitcom by Weens. Weens was an artist from Limerick, wrote a hip-hop album after appearing in the Rubber Bandits' Horse Outside music video. If you haven't heard of Weens, he's quite underrated in my opinion, and Family Sitcom is just, you know, a very thematically similar song. Track number 8 is Mud 25. This is the interlude. It's a lovely segue from Face to Face back into the punk elements that we've seen already. It's almost like, you know, if you're having a nice meal and they give you sorbet between the courses, this is the sorbet. There's shades of Imagine Dragons in the vocal lines here, and, you know, I mean that actually as a compliment here. because clearly Mudrat is not aligned with the politics of Imagine Dragons. Imagine Dragons no hooks, and this has a big one in it. Mud 25, the actual track, really takes that hook and and really opens it up and explores it even further. We're back into the breakneck pace that we've seen from and expected from this album. It takes the chords from the interlude, ups the BPM, throws power chords in there, throws some dirt on those guitars, and a Rage Against the Machine verse thrown in for good measure. There's actually a huge sounding nu metal style section in the middle. Big bass, big corn energy on there. And overall, it feels like this song is very, very angry. No surprises. As it rightfully should be. About the ugly head of colonialism rising again. And fighting back by what we're being told by leaders that are, inherently selfish, that are bought and sold by the highest bidders, and we really need to peer through the headlines to what they're not saying as much as they are, and how much of a challenge in this world it is. I actually, I love that. And then we come to the closing track. We come to track 10, A Beautiful Mess. This is the longest song by far. It's just over 6 minutes long. Lovely picked opening riff with the bass and the guitar really complementing each other beautifully. Over the course of that intro, about 2 minutes long, that there's these really delicate backing vocals that come in that emphasize that main vocal. Drums pick up around that 2 minute mark, and there's real urgency, does a drum roll on the snare, builds up to this big screaming crescendo, and I mean that literally. The vocals just scream. Layers of guitars swell, there's feedback over one another to create this big soundscape. And that sounds like it's a lot, but it's not too busy. It doesn't peter out, it doesn't lose attention, keeps things interesting through tempo changes, which, if you've been watching my videos for a while, I'm a big fan of as a means to keep attention. It's a lovely bookend to the album, with the refrain of, do you want to break free, echoing the opening track of this album as well. So it's not like it's a Pink Floyd situation where the end of The Wall is and here's where we and the beginning is came in. It's not like that, but it is a lovely bookend that you could just, I suppose, start the album over again. Overall thoughts on this? I think that this might be the album of the year. That's a big statement, I know. I was going to say punk album of the year, but that doesn't seem to do this record justice. This is powerful. This is unbridled anger towards a world that only seems to recognize or legitimize aggression and selfishness. And unless you're of a specific social class, everything is against you. I think that this is essential listening and a must buy. Stream it by all means, if you have access to a streaming service, but definitely buy it. Art like this, needs patrons. It needs to be supported and needs to be encouraged. What I will say is that punk and heavy guitars and explicit content, isn't for everyone. But I do think that this is worth a listen despite all of that, because I think that there's enough here to resonate with people, particularly in this day and age. And that's where we are going to leave it for today, folks. That is my take on Social Cohesion by Mudrat. If you agree, leave me a comment. If you disagree, leave me a comment. Hit the like button if you like this video, if you want to see more of this kind of stuff in the future. Subscribe to the channel so that you get these videos dropped directly into your subscriber feed. But overall, that's everything that I have for you today. Thanks so much for stopping by and for hanging out while we talked about this album. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.